Hello, everyone. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, depending on where you're joining us from. I hope you have a great start to the week. And what better than starting your week with another series of insights with Upgrad. And today with us, we have a very, very special guest. And he's dialing in on his early morning to address all of you guys on a topic you've asked us so many times. You know, hey, we understand that there's importance for data science, there's importance for machine learning, and we know there's a lot of opportunities. We keep hearing that around us. But where do we get started? Google is telling me 100 things to do, and I'm always confused with the host of options I get at hand. So that is what Ankit is here to answer. Thanks, MG. Hi, and yeah, before that, can you see all of us? Hello. If we're getting a hi, I think we're audible to all of you. Awesome. Thanks, Naveen. We're good. I think MG is asking. I'm good. I'm in great health. I hope you are too. Before we get started, just to know a little bit more about you, we are just launching a poll where you just have to hit two buttons very quickly. Help us understand your current work experience and what is the outcome you're expecting from today's session. And I hope that'll help Ankit streamline his thoughts in a much better way. The way this session will be structured is Ankit will be speaking to you for the first 30-35 minutes, and then we open up the floor for Q&A because we know all of you have loads of questions to ask, and we want to give each one of you the opportunity to ask your own question and get those answers from the guest for today. Okay, Ankit, are you able to see the live poll results?
Oh, yes.
That's great. Awesome. A lot of them want to upskill themselves in data science, which is why they're attending a session on how do we get started, where do we get started. And wow, we've got a very balanced audience today. I can see people across the floor. That's great. That's great to know. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. Thanks for answering. Do use the Q&A chat box for the Q&A box for asking questions to Ankit, and the chat box for any introductions you have or any in-between poll questions that Ankit has for you. In quickly introducing the guest for today, Ankit is an experienced AI researcher, machine learning engineer who has researched and deployed several scalable machine learning models. He has publications in all the top AI conferences, NeurIPS, ICML, ICLR, and he's adept at identifying business problems, mapping them to ML problems, and developing scalable AI solutions which add value to businesses. He's graduated from IIT Bombay, which is in India, and UC Berkeley. He did his postgraduate from there, and he enjoys running. So, any of you have any other questions about where to catch up next for marathons, you can ask it that too. I hand it over to you now.
Awesome. Thanks, Meda, for the introduction, and welcome everyone. I hope it is right time for you to learn about these things. And what I'll do, I think, is try to give a flavor on how to kind of get started in data science. And maybe this will help you get some perspective, get some questions answered. And if you have any further questions, I'm available to kind of answer those also. So I'll start to share my screen, and we'll run through a short presentation, and then we'll go from there. So let me start. I hope you guys can see my screen now.
Yes, we can.
All right. So today's topic is how to get started in data science, which is, if you search on Google, I was seeing more than approximately 1 million results. So I think let's demystify some of this in this presentation. So who am I? I think Mida gave a great introduction. I'll just very briefly talk about this. I'm currently a research scientist at Facebook, working on machine learning problems. I was previously a machine learning lead at Uber AI. And some of the applications while I was at Uber AI, I worked on was improving the Uber Eats recommender systems. So getting the right food at the right time to people, fraud detection at Uber, and even your ETA prediction that you see on Uber cabs. I think that's also one of the things I worked on. Without going to details on my work, let's first, I think, first demystifying thing I want to say is like, I think people talk to me about this a lot, that it's very hard, data science is very hard, and how to get started in this. Let me tell you a fact, which is actually true in my opinion. It's definitely not rocket science. So I think you have to develop obviously some specialized skill to succeed in the field. At the same time, those skills are not that you cannot develop in due course of time. If you put in some effort, I think those should be very easy to get it. So I think the first thing is to understand that it is doable and doable in a respectable time frame. Now let's move forward on how to get started. Like, I think if you ask me like 5-6 years back or 7 years back, when I was starting in the field, that how to best get started, like the obvious answer that you'll get from everyone at that time was, oh, pursue full-time in-person master's PhD from top US university. While that is exactly what I did. However, I don't think that is a requirement right now with the world changing and moving more towards digital transformations. And then finally, once you kind of do some master's or PhD, you send out resumes to firms, get hired. I personally think this is now an old way because world has changed in the last 7-8 years. So it's definitely not a requirement right now, from what I believe. So, and also like it's quite expensive to do something like this. I can tell you from my experience myself. So if this is not like, could be one way, this is not a bad way, certainly, right? What else can be done if this is not the only thing that can be done? So my advice is like, it's always to, because of this digital transformation, make internet your friend. Work, like build on internet, showcase your work on internet, interact with people on internet, and then you'll be surprised that how many people are willing to help you succeed. So I think making internet your friend in the learning process is, I think, the major change that you can do to your overall learning. And then secondly, get out and be involved. Like I'll talk about this a little more, but overall the thing is like showcase your work, talk to people, talk to practitioners, talk to researchers, and then you will be understanding more and more rather than just doing like an in-person master's in a US university. So because data science today has evolved a lot, and this is just, I've written a subset of subfields, but there are like at least 20 more that I could write in the subset of subfields. So I think because the field has evolved a lot, and there's always a need of some specialization somewhere. I personally think that, 1 second. So I personally, sorry. Because the field has evolved a lot, I personally think that understanding where your interest lies will be paramount to your success. Now, having said that, you cannot decide today which is the field you want, right? Once you start learning it, you'll try to realize that this is my inclination. My inclination is toward more of this and less of this. And then you can structure your preparation accordingly. So that is an ongoing learning process. Like for me, I am also not involved in all the fields that I mentioned here. I'm also involved in subset of these. So I think it's very important to understand that what is the thing you like and where you might land up in this overall vast field of data science. So it's like, there is like very hard to become expert in everything, but you kind of have to understand that this is a subfield that I'm interested in, and there is enough opportunities within every subfield that I'm talking about in this case. Second thing is, the new way I personally think is there are several subfields in data science, and for that, first you have to understand that learn some technical skills through remote courses, degrees, internet, I think that's the one thing that bare minimum requirement in terms of table stakes, that you have to learn some technical skills to get through data science. After that, after you have learned something on the technical side, develop and share projects. When I say share on internet, and not share it with just your close friend and family. Just share on internet, get the feedback of people, and also showcase the good work that you're doing. Then once you have started doing that, you have to understand what is, because ultimately, if your target is to get a job in the field or transition into the field, you have to understand the interview requirements, because it's like preparing for the game. Essentially, preparing for the interview is very important than just general preparation. And then you prepare extensively for interviews and then get hired. So I think this is like the fourth step, I would say, is a good thing that many people have followed now, I see, and has worked decently well. However, I think the major problem that I've seen personally is not in the first two, but in the last two. It's like, what is the interview requirement? How do I prepare extensively for interview? While there are several resources, but there are so many misleading things also that are there. So as part of this presentation, in terms of these 4 steps, I'll just go into one of those steps, into just understanding analytics interviews. When I say analytics, obviously it's a subfield. Now you can have many other subfields also. But I'm just talking about one subfield, which is analytics in the overall data science space. So I'll run through some understanding on what is required, and we'll run through an example also on how to apply those skills. Sorry. So types of interview in terms of analytics, mainly, like, obviously each company has its own process, but mainly I'll divide into 3 parts. One is some technical skills, which I'll talk about. Then some was your behavioral skills, that is same for any other interview also. And the third thing is the case interviews, which I'll talk about also a little bit. So understanding these 3 aspects helps people to kind of clear the interviews. So what are the technical interviews? So technical interviews for analytics especially cover some of the technical skills that I've listed here. No, this is not an exhaustive list, but it could be much more. But I think this is good enough to kind of prepare for. So some amount of SQL is required, which is SQL, structured query language. So that is because data science is a field of data, and the best way to pull the data even today is using SQL. So then how to write a SQL query to kind of fetch the data in the right shape and right form, or transform the data so that we can do some analysis on top of it. So there are several concepts of like joins, group by, where, having, window function, query optimization, and then there is also a NoSQL kind of settings, where understanding all of these or some of these will help build the technical chops in SQL interviews. Then depending on the job, there are some softwares or programming languages that might be more important or less important. Like for some jobs, I can say that Excel is good enough. But if your data is like in trillions of rows or billions of rows of data, then Excel might break down in that sense. So then you might use R or Python, depending on the company and depending on the type of role it is. While one thing I'll say is like, there is a long list of languages that can be there, and there is not only R, Python, then there are new ones also that are coming up. But learning one language can help you kind of kick started in the other language. And if you're already a programmer, for example, and if you already know Java or something, right, learning these languages should also be much easier. So I think learning a new programming language is good, but I think at least knowing one of them would help in building projects also. So I think that's the one thing I'll say in this case. And then there are other requirements in terms of sometimes for data visualization and other things. Many companies do use Tableau or other BI. BI means business intelligence. So BI tools. If the role requires a lot of reporting or a dashboarding style thing, or analyzing data on a visualized manner, or reporting that, I think those tools would also be helpful. In all of these, I think this is based on the priority also. So I think the first thing, if you have to learn SQL, and then any other software like R, Excel, or Python, and then BI tool if the time persists. So I think this could cover like some part of the technical chops that you might need for those interviews. Yeah, I think this one is very important. And primarily, I will say that this is like a make or break style interviews for analytics. So these are the kind of interviews where you're required to estimate the number by putting a framework to the problem, making assumptions, and coming up with a final number. Now, I've said it as a guesstimates. It's not always guesstimates. It's like you're not estimating a guess always. But the idea is that this is how people used to think about these kind of problems is like, for example, estimate the number of balls or liquor bottles in USA. And then you go on like, what is population, how much population drink liquor, and then how many bottles are sold every day, and those kind of things to kind of approach this number. So I think, and the skill set required to solve this is a similar skill set required to solve the analytics problem in the tech industry. And I'll come to that. But the few pointers in this, few things to understand in this one is like, it's the approach that matters and not the final numbers. Like you cannot estimate like exact to down to last number, last decimal point or something like that on number of balls or liquor bottles. You have to kind of make sure that the approach is right and you're thinking in a more structured manner. So call out the assumptions and possible blind spots that you don't know, and clearly state the framework and the segmentations you make. So I think these are the initial skill set that people have understood in these kind of interviews when they were approaching it for analytics. Now this has evolved a little bit, but I think that was the start. Generally, more or less, you'll get something like a real life case study. And then we'll solve a real life case study in the example that I have. But the idea is it's a case interview start with the broad business questions and narrows in a particular direction. What I mean by that, let's see through an example because that will become more clear. The major part I want to get out of this is that in any case study based interview, it's all about three things, the structure. If you can structure your thoughts, structure your ideas, and explain that structure in a right manner, I think those are quite important, or I will say the most important skill that people are looking at. I'll go on to length and say that even if some technical skills are missing, right? Sometimes what I've seen is even if some technical skills are missing, but the case study skills are very, very strong of a candidate, people do get hired because technical skills like SQL can always be easily learned comparatively. But thinking about a real life case study and structuring your thoughts is a learned process. It cannot be instantaneous. So again, in this case, also call out the assumptions, think out loud, interviews looking for your thought process, and you have to be communicating effectively. Mind you, this is only for analytics interviews. So it's if you go for a different field in data science, which I'm not covering right now, it might not be applicable directly. And some more things to get hired, which is like, I should have made this slide earlier, but I want to kind of illustrate as the last thing is I obviously update your LinkedIn profile, I can attend local meetups, go through any mentor boot camps, and keep yourself updated by following articles online, like Analytics India is one, Towards Data Science is one, and follow some Twitter leaders, because Twitter has a lot of activity in data science and machine learning. Follow some leaders like Andrew Ng, DJ Patil, etc. And then you learn a lot by seeing what is happening in the field also. So these are just small bits on how to get abreast about the field and also kind of meet people and showcase your work. Okay, so I promised a case study. Let's see a simple case study, which I borrowed from somewhere, and to see what kind of things people work on when doing their data science in a company or analytics in a company. And a similar style question would be asked also in your interviews. So I want to touch and study based on Yammer. Yammer is a company which was acquired for 1.2 billion by Microsoft a few years back. And it's basically, you can think of a social network for communicating with coworkers, not like Facebook with your friends and family, but more like a social network for communicating with coworkers. Individuals share documents, updates, and ideas by posting them in some groups. So now people have been using Slack a lot, but I think Yammer was also very popular at that time. Think of it like Facebook for work, and Yammer has web, mobile, and tablet apps. Okay, so I think this is just a context. It's like, because some data is around Yammer, so I want to kind of set the context on what this company is all about. So imagine what will happen is, when you're working as a data analytics, right? Or when you're giving an interview, somebody will come to your interview, or a product manager will come to you when you're working as in the company and say that, oh, if you see this curve here, right? This is weekly active users on the platform. And I see a dip somewhere here, right? Oh, sorry. Okay. So I see a dip. So initially the users were increasing, but I see a dip here. And then the product manager will ask that why there is a dip. Can you investigate? Right. Now, if you think about, this is a very broad problem, like why this engagement is going down, because now company has multiple apps, multiple kinds of users, and some users are logging in, some users are not logging in, or something else is happening. What might be, so now you have to start thinking and see that what might be causing this dip in engaged users on the platform. And then your job is to find out that, and that is what the data analytics people jobs is, right? So now you are given a problem. It's a very open-ended problem. Now to start thinking. So the initial thought that comes to mind is like, maybe there was a holiday at that time and people were not logging on work kind of softwares like Yammer or something. People logging more on Facebook or some other social network at that time. Maybe that's the reason. And there could be a broken feature or app, like basically your some feature broke that people were not able to log in or something like that, and that's why the login screen broke. Maybe people were logging in, but then you had a problem in data recording script, so your data is not been recorded properly. That's why the graph is showing like a dip. There was like a one-time marketing event, in the sense that the peak was because of the marketing, and as soon as the marketing kind of went away, the peak dropped again. So there was, the peak was marketing event, the dip is normal kind of thing. So then you can have several of these hypotheses. Now, the best way is like you go ahead and check everything one by one, because you cannot say something. So when you're talking to an interviewer, he's looking for what is the hypothesis you can come up. So like I came up with 4 of them, but you can come up with 8 of them also. So he's looking for how broadly you can think on this like problem, so that we can nail down the problem much faster. So then one thing that you'll do in this case, so this is a graph on obviously time again, and the daily signups that you're seeing. And you can see that obviously daily signups is like all users. Let's see the all users one, right? It's definitely cyclical, because on the weekends you'll have obviously less signups, and on the weekdays you'll have more signups, right? So Monday always have more signup because people are logging in first time, and then you have less signups. So this graph looks normal. So there is no dip here as such, like directly, right? Pretty much normal on a week or week basis. So then if this is user growth is normal, that means people are coming on the platform, and then or new users are joining on the platform, right? So it's not the problem of new users. Somehow, like people are able to come on the platform and join the platform. Then what you see, so then another part is, if the new users are coming, that if new users are able to join the platform, that means the engagement drop is coming from old users, right? So there are only 2 kinds of users, new users and old users. So if new users are able to log in, able to join the platform, so the dip is definitely not coming from them. There is some dip coming from old users. Now, how do you see old users thing? Well, one way to think about this is, again, this is a plot on time, right? And the engagement by user age cohort, right? What does it mean? So if you think about this, that there is this is a bar chart, right? As you can see, right? Each color corresponds to how many weeks people have been on the platform. So people who have been only 1 week, you'll see one bar here and one bar here, and then obviously they were not here in the platform before. People who have been for 10 plus weeks, you see a green bar all the time because you are plotting it 10 weeks back. Okay, so now if you think about this, you can say that there is a decreasing trend, right, in terms of this this old users engagement. What is meant by engagement? Engagement is like how many times these people are logging on the platform. So overall, what you're seeing is that the older users are not able to log into the platform, or are not as engaged as they were a few weeks back, and that's the dip that you're seeing overall. Right. So now when you started with seeing the dip, you had some hypotheses like holidays and marketing event and all those things. And then you said that, oh, maybe new users are not able to come into the platform. But all of this you got rejected. And then you finally came with the conclusion that when I see the data, it's the old users engagement, which were engaged, who were using the platform are not able to use now, which is a very interesting finding now. Right now, you'll go to the product manager and say, I see the problem is with old users. Now, the product manager will ask you a question. Can you investigate why they're not engaged? Is there any problem? Or should we talk to those old users? So then another next steps that you can take is, let's break down the engagement by device. What is device? Device is because the app is available on tablet, on phone, and on computer or your laptop. Let's see if the engagement is dropping in one particular device type, or it's same across. You'll see here that actually this is the overall number. This curve is overall number, and this one is a dip. Well, you can say it's a slight dip here, but it's very low number anyway. The major dip is coming from the mobile. So major engagement drop for mobile users. So now you have highlighted that old users are not able to come in. Among those old users, people who are using mobile as a platform to log into Yammer are not able to come in. So now you have nailed down the problem that this is a device-based problem, which is causing the overall dip in the overall engagement. So now if you zoom into the mobile users, and you can clearly see that there is a dip that is clearly happening here, that people were engaged before, but now you can see a clear dip here. So that's how now you have investigation done, that there is a major drop here, which is causing the overall dip to be happening. So, and then you can do further investigation that on what might be happening. So it might be that mobile app has become too heavy with the new features and it crashes. That could be one. Re-engagement emails that were sent on for retaining users are not being viewed on mobile clearly. So mobile UI is broken, or mobile app is crashing, or there is a bug in recording data in the mobile, and other things. So you can go more deep into understanding which one of these is causing a mobile data to be lower. Now, the thing I want to take away is, like, this is just a very quick example on what a data analytics person might do in the company. And this is similar to a question that will be asked in analytics interview in general. So the takeaway here is overall that you start with the broad stroke of a problem, right? Number of users are not in, the number of engagement of users is going down. From there to kind of saying that, oh, mobile app has a problem, right? You have to think through all the possible steps that you might see to kind of nail down this problem. Now, a good data analyst is very good at understanding that these are the various factors. This I should check first, and then next, and then next, and then next, right? And if you are less experienced, what people will do is, like, they'll try to check everything, which will take a long period of time. Obviously, they'll also reach the same conclusion, but they might not be as quick as someone who's experienced in terms of data analysis. So the major skill to develop in this case is, like, can you structure the problem? Can you think about the product in a sense that you can identify issues very quickly in terms of data analysis and report back to management or whoever else? So in this case, let's say the mobile app is become too heavy and it crashes, for example, that is the reason eventually we come out. Then what will happen is you'll communicate this to PM. PM will say to the engineering team that maybe the mobile app, you have to kind of change something in the mobile app so that it doesn't crash anymore. So once they fix that, you'll see the users coming back up. And so that's the impact that your work will have on the overall company, that you're maintaining the user base of the company and not letting it dip in this case. So overall, this is by far the most important skill in this analytics interviews. Obviously, other skills are important, SQL and other things, but I think this is kind of comes very handy when you're trying to attack analytics interviews. So yes, I think I'll stop here. So thanks everyone for listening on this one. Any questions? I'm happy to answer on this one or in general also.
Thank you so much for this, Ankit. And I'd like to see some questions from all of you on the Q&A box. Meanwhile, I'll just give me a second. Yes. All right. I hope this is a better view for all of you. All right. Thanks so much, Ankit. And we do have one anonymous question here. Just before I take that, I read a question, and it's a very valid question. Before we take on questions, I'd like to help all of you understand that Upgrad is an upskilling platform which helps you upskill in the programs of your interest in areas that are emerging technologies, and helps you learn from the most amazing mentors and industry experts, the likes of Ankit. And you learn in a blended learning format, which is recorded sessions plus live lectures. You have an amazing small group coaching session, one-to-one career mentorship with coaches from across the world, where you get amazing case studies like this, and more examples which are relevant in today's industry, and that helps you get a hands-on training on what is it like to be a data scientist, a machine learning engineer, and essentially upskill, transition, grow, accelerate your career in the direction you want it to be. So that was about what we do at Upgrad. And feel free to check out our website and speak to our counselors at admissions@upgrad.com. And we would take it on from there. So let's pick up questions now. There's one question on, are there any particular groups that you follow to get updates about data science? This could be across Ankit, LinkedIn, Facebook, any other forums you'd suggest?
I personally get most of my news from Twitter, actually, and I would suggest to follow like prominent personalities on Twitter, because like everybody has different perspective, and because the field is evolving also very fast. There is no central way, I think, for which is like good enough. So most of the times I actually get my updates mainly from Twitter. Other than that, you can join like if you want to learn or something. Yeah, I think you can obviously join towards data science and other things where there are a bunch of articles posted. But in terms of latest and greatest of AI or machine learning or data analytics, I think Twitter is the best forum in my opinion.
Thank you for that. I hope that answers your question to whoever asked it. There's one question in the chat box I see. Sai is asking, when can we start looking for a job whenever we have the necessary qualification? I think maybe I interpret in two ways. One could be, can I start looking for a job only when I have the right qualification? Or how do I start looking for jobs after I have the necessary qualification? So say you pursued the master's in data science program with Upgrad, and how do you look for jobs now? If that's what you're asking, Ankit, if you want to add, I'll add my points after that.
Yeah, I think and the first thing is like, looking for a job if you're looking for the first time for a job in the field, you have to kind of put yourself out there a little bit earlier, I would say, than later. The simple reason for that is you have to understand what is like, you have to test the waters actually on where you are. So obviously prepare something initially, you learn some technical skills through a course or somewhere else if you think that is relevant. Once you have learned some things, I think put yourself out there, try to see some interviews. Maybe you can strategize by saying that not in your dream companies, but some other companies, so that you can understand what are the issues with your preparation, or kind of address that going back. And then you have to iterate from there on, like, just fix those issues and try to interview again. But I would not wait for a long period of time before giving the first interview itself.
Got it. And if you're asking, Sai, okay, I'll answer the second part of the question for you. So if you're saying that, okay, I am in the program, and how do I look for jobs now? We have a very thorough career assistance program where in the 4th month of the program itself, for a master's degree, you start to get mock interviews. You start to have CV building, resume building workshops, and how do you build a better LinkedIn profile, because you want to exhibit a better LinkedIn profile, a GitHub profile, right, a GitHub portfolio for yourself. And all of that you get during the program itself. I see one anonymous question on, after having skills to have hands-on, anywhere you can do live projects. The upgrad courses have 15 live projects as a part of the program. So that itself ensures that while you're applying for jobs, where Ankit is saying, right, you should put yourself out there as soon as possible. You can start adding those to your resumes. And Ankit, you can verify, right? The resumes first go through an ATS, where if there's no mention of any live project, I mean, your CV doesn't even pass through the next round. So what we ensure is that you get to do hands-on all of these projects, which you can add to your resume or CV, and you can clear the first round.
Yeah.
What are some of the valid certifications? There's from Upgrad, you have different certifications. There's certificate course, there's executive programs, and there's master's degree. Any other apart from these, there's a lot of boot camps also in the market. You can explore those. So those are what exists today. But are these valid, Ankit? Like, does your company say currently accept a person who's done a certification but also done maybe live projects along with it?
Yeah, I think like these days, what I'm seeing is like just the degree requirements, which used to be there 5-7 years back, are not there yet, are not there now. People are now more open to kind of accepting applications, people who have done some work around the field, which is like some projects around it and learn some skills. So as long as people have that, I think like getting a formal degree in person is not a requirement these days. And also, I think another part is the tide is on your side, if I may say so, in sense that there are a lot of open positions that companies are not able to fill today. And there is a lot of demand of this profession. So in that sense also, like if you have a necessary skill set, it's much easier to get in than some other professions where the demand is not so high.
Got it. Thank you for that, Ankit. There's one question from Mohit, who's currently doing his program with Upgrad. He says he's interested in sports analytics and wants to practice case studies projects to add to his resume. Where can he find such projects on sports analytics? I think sports analytics in particular, we don't have a live project on it. There's a lot other sectors that you have live projects and capstone project if you're doing the program. However, internally, do ask your Upgrad buddy to connect you to or to help you with internship opportunities that Upgrad learners have an opportunity to apply to. And from there, you can do something in sports analytics, right, as an internship, instead of directly applying for a job there, if you want to experience how it is. Ankit, any other areas that sports analytics case studies or projects can be found?
No, I think, but one thing I'll say is like there are enough data sets available which are easy to use online on sports, on any sports you think of actually now there are. So I would just say that pick up those data sets and start exploring. I think that's also a valid way because every subfield won't have enough projects for you to work on. So you can just pick up the data sets that are available and then start working through those.
Great. And I think a lot of the learning can also be extrapolated, right? Maybe I'm looking at I think NBA has so much analytics into it, right? The whole movie Moneyball was on using analytics. Now, while you may learn something there, and you can just maybe plug and play in some other scenarios.
Yeah, I think the skills are transferable, so that is right.
Got it. I see Jyoti raising her hand. Jyoti, if you can type the question, it'll be great. We'll just get it answered. If you can't put it to words, I'll unmute you and allow you to speak. All right. Any other question that we have? All right, there's one on the chat box. Guys, just put your questions on the Q&A box. It's difficult to track the chat box for questions. Amit is asking, which is the most effective tool for data analytics in banking and investments?
I think the tooling depends on the company sometimes, I would say. And I think within banks also, you'll see that different companies are employing different tools because that suits them better. At the same time, if you're looking at some tools which are specific to, let's say, stock market data or anything, I think there are some standard tools like Bloomberg or others, which are helpful for getting the data in that shape and form. But other than that, I think all the other tools that you're looking at might be specific to the company. Like I can say that I know for a fact that Goldman Sachs, which is also a banking company, has its own tools internally, which is not shared with other companies like Morgan Stanley or something else. So I think it also depends on the company. The idea is that the skill set that you learn in general in this field is kind of easy. Once you have that, it's easy to learn any particular custom software that a company has.
Thanks for that, Ankit. I don't see any other open question. Waiting for all of you to just ask other questions. All right, we're getting more questions on the chat and not on the Q&A. Priya is asking to showcase your projects. Do we have to share a GitHub link in the CV, or is there any other way to share your GitHub portfolio?
Yeah, I've obviously I would say share it as much as possible overall. Obviously, including CV, including your LinkedIn profile, and including your bio on Twitter or anywhere else that you're also working actively on. I think the more places it's out there, the more easily it could be seen. I think that's the easiest way to kind of get some understanding.
Thanks for that, Ankit. While we wait for some more questions, I'd like to take your feedback on how you found the session. And if you'd like us to reach out to you for more such interesting sessions we keep having. And there's one recording link that I have shared with all of you in the chat, which you can refer to at your own free time. It covers essentially all the data and machine learning programs that we at Upgrad have, or you can just visit upgrad.com and check out our courses that are available on the website. Okay, any more questions do we have? All right, Mohit is asking, where can I find data sets in general to practice? Okay, it's okay if it's not just related to sports. Other open source data sets, there are a lot of websites, right, Ankit, that one can use.
Yeah, I think, yeah, it's very hard to kind of cover all the websites here. I think one thing I'll say is there are actually GitHub GitHub profiles where people have just curated the links of data sets itself, right? And then you can go just search for that kind of data sets in GitHub, and you'll find enough links there. Actually, that's some of the people have done that good job of that. Another way is like I can tell you that many people have started exploring this government data sets also a little bit. So then the data.gov is generally a good place to kind of explore more data sets. But yeah, I think if you search on GitHub, I think you'll get enough links. I myself use that to kind of get some new data set if I want to kind of explore.
I think another place where you get is there's so many active subreddits, right? Where you keep getting one link with the other on open source.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, thanks Rajiv for sharing the link on the chat. I saw you share it. All right, no more questions on the Q&A box. I hope you guys are using Q&A box to ask questions. All right, another one on the chat. What level of detail is expected from the applicant on the project experience? All right. Essentially, if you're putting on your CV or as a part of your GitHub portfolio that you've done this, how much in detail do they want your project to be?
Yeah, detail depends on a little bit on your experience on the field and the requirements for the job. So I think if you're a junior person, I think doing some things like very junior person, doing something which is interesting and explore data, I think that's also good enough, right? When you're a senior enough, then I think the one thing they'll expect is like, have you thought of all the, like what assumptions you have made, why you have made those assumptions? Like, can you answer questions based on what you have done rather than just assuming something because it's good enough to assume, or working or producing a result which you cannot interpret. So I think I think what people are looking for is not like final details on your project, but what people are more looking for is like, have you thought about many things and then narrowed your approach rather than just thinking about one approach and going with it. So ability to answer questions in terms of like, why this, why not, will definitely define your seniority in the project. And for a junior person, I would expect personally that even if you have done some work in some parts in terms of analysis, I think that's good enough and showcase their technical skills.
Right. So then I think what I took back from this is it's very clear as to what role you're applying for, right? What's the position? And that in turn will determine how much in depth you have to be. And of course, I mean, you don't have to do 100 things right midway. Even if you do like 2 things correct at that level of expertise, I think that's enough to make the cut during the interview. Ravi Chandran is saying Kaggle is a good place for data sets. Priya says thanks. All right, Rajiv has sent some more data sets for different governments across different countries. Thanks so much for that. And then there's Kaggle.com. All right. See, this is what we learn from the Upgrad courses as well. We've got learners from 85 plus countries. You'll get the intellectual expertise is all there amongst your peers as well. So thanks, Rajiv, for sharing your sources. I see some questions on chat. Okay, Mohit is saying, can we get a recording of the session? Mohit, you can use the same registration link to view this again after the session is closed. There's one anonymous question on what are the transition choices available for the 20 plus years of experience candidate in the data science space. Most of the experience is in tech space and leadership roles. Any thoughts? So I think when you're speaking for yourself, it's essentially you've got leadership and tech experience is what I'm understanding. So what transition choices would you recommend here, Ankit? I mean, I'd like to know which sector the person is in.
Yeah, I'm assuming like for my answer, I'll assume that you are in technology industry for now. And if not, I think the answer would be similar. It's just a different domain. So I think the best transitions I've seen for people who are experienced is not directly to, and this might sound counterintuitive, but that is actually what I've seen, is that not directly transition to data science, but transition to a field which is more related to your job and also related to data science. For example, I think data engineering is a field where a lot of tech people actually, or even managers I've seen, started managing a data engineering team which works closely with data science people. And data engineering is more engineering on data and not just engineering without data. So you can like easily transition to kind of manage those teams. And then once you have enough understanding on data side and other things, you can slowly start to manage data science teams also. So rather than looking at the complete jump because it's role reversal in some sense, I would take it as a transition as a two-step process, and which is take a role closely related to data science and then move to data science. So that might be easier.
And I think a similar question was asked. I think the last month we conducted a similar session and with the VP at Capgemini, and I think I recall his answer being that it's best that you stick to the sector you are in, because you bring in such deep insights that people with 0-2 years of experience who are getting into the same field would not have. So what you bring to the table is insights and the fact that, okay, these are the problems worth solving with the newer technologies, right? So having that insight is something that most people who start their career with data science would not have, and that's what you can leverage. All
Yes.
right. While I'm still waiting for some of you to help us with how you found the session. So Ankit, I think you can see the live results there. Most of us giving like a double thumbs up. And I think I can see about 3 people who weren't really happy with the session. Do give us a feedback on admissions@upgrad.com. Happy to incorporate some of your feedback as well. All right, I don't see any other questions from you, no raised hands. So I'm assuming we're all done, sorted for the day. And I hope you have answers to all your queries. I will very quickly just write the email ID that you can reach out to us on for any questions you would like to be answered, but you didn't get an answer to. Thanks a lot, Ankit, for your time. And thank you everybody for taking out the time, and look forward to having you again for any other session that we conduct. Have a great day, a great evening. See you.
Yeah. Thanks everyone. Thanks Mida, and thanks everyone for joining in.